Hi guys, my name is Crystal. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my last video for this evening. Alexa, what's the time please?
The time is 8:08 p.m.
8:08 p.m. on Thursday. Tomorrow is obviously Friday and we're going to gear ourselves up for the weekend, but Saturday at least I'll be going out for part of the day. So I've just come back from taking Max for a short walk. It's been raining outside and Max seems to have a bit of a bad tummy. I have been out of this flat since 11:20 this morning and I came back at nearly 6 o'clock. So, you know, I don't know. I obviously leave my dog water and dry food. So I don't know. It's minor. He's happy. He walked. He's fine. He's fine. I left him here with the cat to keep him company. So I left him with Nikki to keep him company, because I know what it's like when I'm left alone for hours and you want somebody to talk to and you want a bit of company. So I left him with Nikki, my tortoiseshell cat. So, I don't know. Oh, he's eating and everything. Just his poo's a bit runny. So yeah, I've just come back from walking Max, and of course you're not going to see many people in the rain, are you? There was a lady with a long coat, hood over her head, walking the dog. And as I was coming down the path, she crossed over, put the hood over her head and walked off. But you get used to that, you know. You've got to understand, a lot of these people that are bullying me have been living a lie. And when reality hits them in the face, then maybe they'll realise what they've been doing. But until they wake up and realise they've been living a lie, they're not going to apologise or be nice people. They're going to carry on bullying. Carrying on the lie that they've all been living is better than accepting the truth, right? So if they keep carrying on in the world that they're living in, where they're bullying me and pretending I'm somebody else and abusing me mentally and being rude in shops and some people outside, until they wake up, they're going to keep doing it. Because I haven't done any harm to anybody. I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't broken the law or anything. Basically, they've done bad things to me and my mum. My dad obviously abused both me and my mother quite badly, and the police have kept saying me and my mother are mentally ill to get away with it. And the perpetrators have said me and my mum have got a mental health problem and let perpetrators beat us and sexually abuse us. So they're not going to want to tell the truth, are they? They're going to keep saying, ugh, she's mentally ill. And we're dealing with people that haven't grown up. Because when you bully a child at school because it hasn't got up-to-date school uniform, or he or she has got a physical disability, a mental disability, or they've got a birthmark, a scar, and you get one bully come over, they've got the lurgy, don't go near them. And then, before you know it, you've got the whole class on one person who's done nothing wrong, they're just different. And it's wrong, and teachers need to educate children not to bully. And what bullying does to some people, it can cause some people to commit suicide. And nobody wants somebody to die, do they, by bullying them or putting drivers in cars that aren't qualified to drive and could cause somebody to have a fatal accident in a car, which is the truth. And how that driver of the taxi drove that car with the smell. And you can get high on smells. You can. So that driver was driving high as a kite. because the smell in that car was awful and I wanted to open the door and get out to breathe. So how he was driving with the smell, smells can give you a high, strong smells. And he was struggling to keep control of that car. The taxi driver coming home this evening was high as a kite on the smell of those air fresheners. And they stank. It was juddering about. The car was juddering. It wasn't going in a straight line. It was like going there and going there. He was struggling to keep control of it because the smell inside that taxi was so potent. I was in the back seat and it was making me feel ill. So you can imagine the driver that was sat with his nose near the air fresheners, right near them, and there was more than one hanging down, how he felt when he was driving. He was trying to keep control of the car. And I told you, he went past two cars that were coming sideways, which would have gone into the side of his driver's seat. Because I was on the left and he was on the right there. So if that car had crashed coming from the side into his side, it would have obviously harmed the driver. The driver would have lost control of the car and the car would have crashed. And I was in the back seat. Right? I'm not saying someone's trying to kill me, but you start to wonder. So I've come back from taking Max for a walk. I told you a lady put a hood over her head and walked off the path. They're living a lie, and they're making out I'm someone I'm not, and they're all going to get discovered and they're all going to get caught. So if you get rid of the problem, it's easier for them to get away with it, isn't it? And the same when I was at school. So I'll tell you some of the school bullying. I would be sat in my classroom and I was very, very shy. And I thought, right, I'll answer the question this time. And somebody told me, one of the teachers said, can you name a word with T? And I put my hand up and I said, talkative. And the whole class burst into laughter, and so did the teacher. Because I was shy and quiet and I'd come out with the word talkative. So I had the whole class laughing at me. I also had the whole class writing horrible names on the blackboard. And I went to walk out of the classroom and I said, I'm not tolerating that. I said, I'm going home. She said, why? Because they're writing rude things about me on the blackboard. Oh, don't be silly. I said, tell them off or not to do it, or I'm going home. I was about 12 or 13. I'd had enough of it. I hated school. I hated every fucking day of my secondary school life. And I was being bullied by teachers and the girls. They were all girls, and girls can be a darn sight worse than boys when they're bullying. They're bitches, some of them. I told my dad I didn't want to go to that school. I want to go to a small school. And he made me go to this school I didn't want to go to. He also chose my options. And I had a horrible time at school. And bullying is just, is horrible. But that mental health documentary, that undercover guy, exposed bullying to the extreme. And they were females coming on to male mental health patients, sexually wiggling herself about near a mentally ill bloke. A woman, they were calling the patients cunts. C-U-N-T. Cunts. Like they weren't people, they were just a piece of shit. Oh, she's a cunt. It's disgusting. That is how people really behave. It's vile. That sort of thing went on at my school, but there weren't mobile phones and I couldn't tape it. If I had had a mobile phone with a camera and I got the piss taken out of my name, you're black, I got told you're black, I got told, your name is horrible. One of the teachers said my name was horrible. One of my work colleagues said, oh, I thought you was going to be black. I've been treated really, really rotten, and I just wish I had phones and cameras back in the 80s. I really do. Teachers used to laugh at me. Oh, don't bother talking to her, she doesn't speak. I could hear. My mum gave me an original name, Genestra, and I was proud of it. I was proud of this name. My mum had given me a special name, and people were taking the piss out of it. Oh, that's a black person's name. And I turned around and I said, so what? I said, I'm proud of that name. I said, I'm proud of it. And one teacher said to me, it's horrible. Oh, that name's horrible. And I saw how patients in a mental health hospital felt when staff were saying things to them, like, you're fat. Saying it to patients, you're fat. Just treating them like dog shit and getting away with it. One of them actually said, oh, if someone caught me doing this, I'd get fired. Well, of course you would. But this guy was undercover filming them, and they probably were fired after he went and showed it to their bosses. They probably were fired. It's just people, if they can get away with it, they'll get away with it. They will. One of the staff was not doing her job. She was just lying outside, bathing in the sun and not looking after the patients. Several of them were filmed going to sleep on the job, just lying down and not looking after the patients. And they victimised one patient in particular, kept locking her up for weeks and taking away all her possessions and leaving her in an empty room with nothing in it. It's horrible. Bullying is horrible, but when you are a patient in a hospital, or you're supposed to be looked after in a care home, and you're being bullied and beaten and pushed about and trodden on, oh, I felt sick. Absolutely sick to the stomach. Abusing mentally ill patients in a hospital. They didn't shut it down, and one of the patients was still left in that hospital after that film apparently was given to the authorities, the police. So if you tape things and you catch abuse, the police, I mean, if you've physically assaulted someone or committed a crime and someone's caught it on video footage, of course that is evidence in a court of law, isn't it? If you actually catch somebody abusing you or somebody else, or physically assaulting you or somebody else, is that not evidence? Well, it should be. Also, racism is a crime, and shouting abuse at somebody is a crime, and frightening them, kicking things at them to frighten them. While people think they can get away with abusing other people, they will get away with it. And if the police don't use video evidence, then I don't know what's wrong. If you've got photographic evidence, video evidence that you're being abused and someone's doing it to you, then they should use that to stop it. But when I got an email from Hyde Housing telling me to fuck off and die, you old bag, the police didn't do nothing about that. I sent it as an attachment through an email to the police, and they didn't do anything about it. And they never do, because they use mine and my mother's mental health illness. And I suffer from depression and anxiety. I don't suffer from paranoid delusions or anything like that. But all I get is, we can't take this further. We're closing the case. That we can't do anything. That's all I've got throughout my life. I had one police officer come into Victoria Road, and my dad had abused me, and he said to me, well, I can't see any physical evidence of abuse, so I'm not arresting your father this time. But if he hits you and bruises you, we'll come back and we'll possibly arrest him then. And my dad was allowed to then go on to cut my face. He cut my face with his thumb. The police didn't do anything with him, so my dad was allowed to get more violent and cut me. And what do I believe? I believe they wanted my dad to kill me or my mother, or both. That's what I think. They were getting satisfaction out of hearing my mum and me say that my dad was a violent man, and they just left him with us, knowing that he was physically and sexually abusing me, and he'd done it to my mother in the past. My dad would sit there and say, well, yes, my wife is mentally ill and my daughter's giving me stress. I heard him. My mum was only classed mentally ill after several years of abuse by my father. After years of abuse by my dad, my mum was classed mentally ill after suffering years of domestic abuse, black eyes and beatings and sexual assaults. She was deemed mentally ill. I wonder why, after suffering years of domestic violence and calling the police and them not doing anything. I wonder why she got mentally sick. I wonder why. Sick of this. Now they're giving me drivers that can't drive cars properly. And I need to see my mum and make sure she's okay. Either he couldn't drive that car properly, or that incense or those air fresheners were so potent he couldn't breathe or see. They were making my eyes water, and I could hardly see out of my eyes. And he was right next to those air fresheners. And every taxi I get in, either smells of strong air freshener or garlic or curry or some really strong smell. And my mum has had the same problem. They did it to my mum when she came back from a flu jab. And she said she had to go to bed after getting out of the taxi, and she felt sick. So they've done it to my mum as well. It's not just me, they've done it to my mum. My mum hardly goes out now. She goes out with Charlotte and Stuart in the car, but she doesn't go out to Chatham. She can't walk. My dad kept her indoors, and she went everywhere with my father. She did used to go to the chemist, and she used to go down to the local shop, but she's got bad arthritis now and can hardly walk, and she's nearly 80. I'm 54 and I struggle to go out myself. The things that some of the people do to try and make you ill, so that you've got to go back home or you have to phone someone for some help, is unbelievable. And I carried on yesterday. I was intimidated as I left the railway station. I was intimidated as I got off the train and went out to go down the road, but I carried on. It's a giant cover-up. And I don't care, you can go, Domestic violence is, So is beating women, And they shouldn't be allowed to get away with it, and I'm going to fight till the very end. See you later. One thing I'm going to say is, you might, whoever's spreading rumours that me, Crystal, He's bald, fat and ugly. No, I'm not. And I ain't a coward either. And you better believe that.